We're going in. We're going to start in Cocoon today, actually, and I'm going to get in, and we're going to let Lori just kind of explore and play, and then we're going to switch. So sometimes it's good to just start with the restorative, and it's just so nice, especially for new clients who aren't really up for doing the big swing stuff. It's just to let the legs extend. I usually do one behind the knees, one at the feet. Make sure it's stretched out, right? So everybody's in. And then the arms can be in any position, but like on the lap or folded over the chest or even up over the head is great. I'm just going to be like this, and then I'm just going to let Lori kind of explore and play and do some stretching, some yoga massage, some playing. I feel so spoiled. Thank you, Lori, for starting. I was like, Lori, show me what you got. I'm like, I feel like laying down today. No, it's really good because sometimes clients will come in and they're just not in the mood for any of it. They're just really worn out. And I had one client come in who was so gung ho, and then it was just clear he was falling asleep and just needing deep rest. And so I put him in Cocoon, and he just loved it. It was just so awesome. And the legs suspended just feels good. Working outside the swing, doing stretching or massage or opening things up just is such a great way to work on the table. It just allows the person to drop in. And even if you start in Cocoon, you can then work up to some other poses, or you can end in Cocoon and spend like a good 10-15 minutes at the end, which is just so delicious. They will definitely come back. And just working underneath the body and getting into the spine and the hips this way is just so nice to be able to move people around and gain some benefit. Yeah, and we're fleshing out some basics to do for a training. And we're just going to keep it simple because people don't need a whole lot, but it just feels just an amazing way to let the nervous system unwind as well. We're playing the game of how slow can you go in our restorative practice. So nice, sweet, fluid movements will help the body really drop in. And for some people, if they haven't fallen in love with the swing yet, Cocoon is definitely will seal the deal. It's just being hugged and wrapped and held in such a great way. I'm going to give you some pointers along the way for you to try. Because straight legs feels amazing, but then you can also encourage them to bend the knees, and then you can give them even more of a push, like push into the hip and the thigh, and really you can actually twist them like away from you. And push. Yeah, that feels great. Perfect. Yeah, because you don't even have to stay on one plane, right? Because they're really suspended. It could bring the swing up a little higher and like have them almost floating above the table. Yeah, that feels great too. Or we can bring it down even lower where most of their weight's on the table, so we can play with the adjustment to see how does that feel? How does that work? Mm-hmm.
Around to the other side.
Mm-hmm. It feels good to me to have my knees bent and pulled in towards my chest. Just feels very comforting and soothing to curl up into a little bit more of a ball.
And then for some reason, I'm just wanting to put my toes under you.
Okay.
See?
Probably because we usually work right under the swing, right?
Right.
Yeah, let's try it.
Wow, it's gonna work.
We're
Let's
experimenting.
see.
Nice. That's great.
You're so close to the table.
I'm going to get myself centered. There we go. Yeah, I can even lift that to let you in a little bit more.
Really now that I try to wear socks because they just come off.
Yeah, no socks. Too much friction.
And how is it if you put put them under your knees?
All of it?
Yeah. It's not quite good.
Yeah, I'd say, oh, that's okay, but not amazing.
Right.
So I like the idea of actually pulling on the feet and twisting the body that way. So let's just say you were going to twist towards the windows instead of the doorway, right? And so you come over, yeah. And then you can hold on to the ankles and pull over to the side. Yeah, that's nice. So we're going to work with and play with the planes, right? So pull all the way towards the windows, even more. Yeah, twist even more. Yeah, like that. You see how that puts like a big arch through the spine? That's really nice. And so we're going to do nice slow movements where we're, yeah, pulling away and then twisting. That feels great. Yeah, and just kind of noticing, yeah. Noticing like how far the body wants to go naturally. If the person is feeling like they want to participate, they can reach up and out and play with adding a little twist and spin themselves. A lot of people like to be passive in these positions, but it is nice to encourage the arms. See how that changes the fishtail motion? Then let's go ahead and go over to the other side. Yeah, even more. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, that's great.
And this grip on your heels is okay. Oh, there she goes.
Yeah, if I just lift my butt, then I float, right? So I can play with really sinking down or lifting up and adding a little bit more torque and play. And I'm just following your movement because if I, try and pull away from that, it feels funny. So I'm just kind of going with your flow. Nice. Really focusing on lengthening out. So you want to pull out the whole time. Yeah. Create some space in the body. Allowing the hips to get some tractioning. Back over. Yeah, and I can help with the movements by lifting up a little bit so I have less drag on the table. But it's good to play with the lifting of the hips or dropping the hips and kind of encouraging that kind of amoebic like movements for the person. Maybe they even want to come into Viparita here and try just undulating the hips, and then you can come over to the side and help push the hips up, right? So just following my movement.
My socks here.
My hair. Yeah, so following my movement as I lift my hip and twist, you can just encourage that space from the hip underneath, pull up.
I'm pulling up.
Yeah, just helping that happen, and then switching sides. Just letting the person wiggle around, but then you're just giving them a little extra lift and encouragement to go deeper. And then, yeah, good. And then up and down as well as side to side. So you can have the person just play with tucking the pelvis and then arching the back, just allowing the whole bowl of the pelvis to get a little bit more space. Yeah, so before switching, let's just do a little bit more upper body because I want you to do the same kind of twists and turns with the neck and shoulders too. Or are you standing in front of the camera? No. Sorry. There she is. I was like, is she over there? I just automatically assumed you were.
I wasn't really sure how to intervene here.
Yeah, so I want you to play more with the shoulders and side body. So one hand on the shoulder and one hand on the hip.
Oh, okay.
From the side. And then go ahead and encourage some twists and turns there. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. Good. So that hand needs to be much softer at the shoulder, like more like soft palming the shoulder, yeah, and push, yeah.
I'm just like sliding my arm under you. How does that feel?
Yeah, that feels good too. Yeah, that all the like massaging through the under the table and through the swing just feels great.
It's kind of fun to do.
It is. I've been doing like this walking up and down the spine with my fingertips on each side, and it's been so fun. So that's, yeah, like both hands in there, just like on one, like this side of the spine closest to you.
Oh, on one side.
And I've just been walking up and down, like between the spine and the paraspinals, just kind of pulling away. That side closest to you, and just, I'll show you. It's hard to describe, but yeah, it's been amazing. It just feels really good for me too. I'm like, I must feel good for them. I've had no complaints, but you know, there's like 100,000 things we could practice doing, and we just want to like, you know, experiment, feel into someone's body. Just even that, like we'll call it like combing back and forth, just feels great in between the intercostals, and just getting, not roughing, you know, just getting a little bit of circulation in there and flow. So your one hand is on my floating rib, so that hand needs to be soft. Yeah, there you go. It's like, oh, my rib. There we go. And of course, in this position, if you do cranial sacral, it's really amazing because you can access skull and the sacrum at the same time and do the balancing. It's just been so cool to feel the two parts start to communicate. So yeah, it would be at the neck for cranial sacral, and then one hand on the sacrum, one hand on the occiput, and then you just want to listen with your hands. You don't want to rock them, just like allow the syncopation. And sometimes I'll do this where I have, can you see me? Sorry. Sometimes I'll do this where I'll have like just push one hand up and then the other hand up. And so then I'm just getting those two to kind of start communicating together. Mm-hmm. Which is a great way to get the nervous system to drop in. Yeah, so the lower hand needs to be more under the sacrum. Can you slide it under a little bit more? Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find during cranial sacral, when somebody's on the table, a little bit challenging to get my hands underneath there,
Mm-hmm.
So the swing just gives a little extra lift to slide. Yeah, so it can be really soft and subtle, or it can be some like big dynamic movements while in cocoon. They're both really delicious, to experience and feel the difference.
This is one I just am wanting to do for some
Mm-hmm.
reason.
Let me expand my legs here. I like it when my feet are supported as well. Yeah. Yeah, all the head and neck stuff in cocoon is such a winner. You can never go wrong. It's just some real sweet, gentle neck and skull work. And I've been shoving all the lasers in here and doing the laser light therapy while they're in cocoon. It's so great because it holds them in place. And it's quite possible that your person will fall asleep if you do that. It's like, I'm just like, okay, we're done. They're like, no.
Do you want me to comb your other side?
Yeah, I would like that. Let's even it out, the combing. Yeah, and the arms can just move around, and some people don't like the shoulders being rounded in, but in this one particular instant, I actually encourage it where all the other poses, the heart is open and we get the big wide wingspan, but in cocoon, everything can curl in.
It's like the qigong, tai chi, I like soft shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the heart is closed, it's just
Mm-hmm.
the back of the heart is open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is different than just grounding in or protecting the heart like we do when we're on the computer. Yeah, that's a good point. Just letting the wings spread on the back.
It's so sweet to be able to hold your person.
Yeah.
They're like somebody holds them.
Yes. Yeah, it's so nice and cradling, especially for big people. They're just so not used to being cradled. And that's the thing, like when Lori and I switch, you'll see she's small, so I'm going to move her all around. But even with big people, I'm moving them all around, and you can tell they're like, oh man, this is different. You know, they're not used to being handled like that because the swing gives you so much versatility. And yeah, we're going to work in different planes and do both the really sweet restorative and then some deeper stuff that I want to experiment with. And just to give people the full range of experience, because most of the time exactly what you're doing is perfect for Cocoon, you know, like most of the time you don't need big dynamic movements, but I do like experimenting with what's possible since we're playing with a whole new medium of swing and table together. Because when they're in the air and we're doing Cocoon, we get underneath them and we can do all these different things. But on the table, we have like a wide range of planes that we can explore. Yeah, so before I fall asleep, we're gonna switch. I'm like, Lori, that's really great, but maybe we'll switch again at the end. I'll do the sleepy time stuff. So yeah, and then from here, you know, we can go into, if we're beginning with Cocoon, we can go into bent knees and then just have them kind of birth themselves. They can even just come onto the table and just do a little bit of this stuff, which is just so nice. I love just the swaying motion, lifting and dropping the hips, and then wake up slowly. Their arms out to the side or overhead. You can do like a big stretch this way if you want to stretch the arms. Yep. Oh, me? You're like, oh, yeah.
I almost missed it.
Yeah. And this is just so great since we were kind of really focusing more on the lower body. It's just like, oh, that's so amazing. So easy, you know? Just give people some space and some stretch in the body. Good. You're like, how far? Yeah. Oh, until the shirt says I'm done. And then I'm just going to come up, bend my knees, and slide into supported back bend. I look like I don't have any pants on. They're on. They're just in there. And then our sequences we've been practicing from here, right? And then we can go into. We're going to focus a little bit more on upper body today since we did lower body last time. But let's do it one little piece at a time. And we're going to come back through the Cocoon with Lori inside. And then I'm going to go over some things that I have in mind. Okay? Yeah. So I'm going to hop up onto the table. Let your whole body. Oh, okay. Yeah. Layers.
You get in the way.
We're like intermission.
Costume change.
Yeah. There you go. She's back. So cool. So Cocoon. It's the big swing, and then the leg loops will be used underneath the knees, and then spread out if that feels good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just want to always make sure we have enough material above the head so their head doesn't pop out. Now, of course, we can always stretch it out a little bit more if we need, but it's good to make sure there's enough above the head. That's the one thing that I find is most people don't put enough here. That looks good. Yeah, and just even this is just really sweet. I do like to start at the head, just get them to drop in, right? I'm doing like some body washes, I call it. I'm just circulating my hands around, down into the shoulders. Body wash, using fingertips or full palms. A little traction. I can even reach in and do one hand at the occipital and the other hand on the forehead. And then I'm going to come down and show you guys the feet, but I'll come back to the body. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get those feet in there nice and good. And then like Lori was doing, where I could just push the legs out to the side. And I like playing with the edges. So all the way over. Maybe even do a little hands-on for the hips. And I can just stay on this side and pull. So I can push and pull from one side, or I can walk around the table and come all the way over. And my clients really love this.
This is great.
Well, especially like I said, the not so flexible big people who aren't used to being stretched, like this is fantastic for them. And plenty, like Lori's a little flexible for all those that haven't known her. So she's going pretty far, but usually it's about here with somebody who doesn't normally do hamstrings and IT band. So good hands on, and then I can also get underneath the body with the other hand. Right? And I'm giving a little push, encouraging the twist, and a little massage. Just the combing move, I'm calling it. Just going in, and I do like rocking a little bit, but we don't want to do like anything like that, right? Like no like short pulses. We're doing nice long, slow movements. Yeah. Coming back through center to make sure you get them even on the table. I can even come up. I do come up on the table quite a bit. I like to give a stretch here. And so my movement is a diagonal. So it's back, and then I'm following the line of the legs instead of just down or up. I'm just following the line of energy, right? So I find that that's really helpful. Come out on the joints, and she's sliding all over. So I love just that simple move too. We've done that before, where we can also stretch through the calves a little bit more now. Any sort of tractioning, you can do some good foot love here as well, which is always nice. Sometimes I'll just have them bend their knees. Let's have you bend your knees, love. And I'll just work on their feet for a while in this position. Do all the foot massaging. And that's just so great. That doesn't get old. This and the head don't get old ever. Like you can do feet for quite a while, and people are pretty happy here. Getting into the calves as well. Happy feet. But since we're going over things, I expedited that. Yeah. So then the other side. Pushing and pulling in the space, hanging out at the edges, just rolling her around. I really love the difference between the push and pull, and see how your person feels. I'm like, oh, how does that feel? Do you like the push better than the pull? And they're like, everything's great. But sometimes they'll like one more than the other, then you'll know by that feedback what's going on in their body. If they really like the pull better than the push, it means they really need some space in their joints. So then I would still do both, but I'm going to accentuate more of the pull, because that's what their body is calling for. Yeah. And now that her knees are bent a little bit more, I can hook underneath the calves. And this is also really sweet, right? Like, Lori, that's your cue. And so for her knees to bend, her feet came out.
I was gonna say, and then I almost fell asleep before I got it out.
Yeah, all of this is supposed to be deeply relaxing. I'm going to go ahead and let her feet be extended again. Good. She's just like a little baby in there, all curled up. And then I'm going to get her hips even. Okay. So I'll do the other side first. So what I was saying to Lori that I like to do is do like one hand on the hip and then the other hand on the shoulder.
Oh.
And we can really play with the back and forth. And even both sides, right? Yeah. Isn't that great? How you can just move the person all around. I know. Whee! So fun. As long as they're not feeling like, okay, I'm getting a little seasick. If they feel like too much, just communicating, bring them back down.
Yeah, it probably could happen. Like,
Yeah, they're like, I don't need all of the, merry-go-round stuff.
Well, this is quicker movements than everything else.
Yeah. So this is the more dynamic part where I'm really letting them spin, doing a little bit more pressure. She's really light, so it might take a little bit more oomph for a bigger person, but I'm going to balance that out on the other side. Just finding a good place for my hands, using the palms, pushing and pulling. And the goal is not just to have fun, but we are. The goal is to get some good length and stretch through the two major hubs. Yeah. And because Lori is lighter, I'm actually going to hold on to the fabric as well and give her a pull this way. And let her come up a little bit higher. So now she has more of her back exposed and I can get underneath her even more. I'm going to ask her to go ahead and cross her arms, although I don't mind her grabbing my boobs. It's just most people, that'll give me a little bit more space to work. And then I pulled her back and now she has more of her upper body exposed. And then I can just kind of do this kind of raking up and down the back move. You can do that with them on the table too. I just like kind of pulling them as well. And then I can even push her too and get into the shoulders. Isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are moves we do in the yoga massage for Coccoon that we're translating to the table. And because it looked fun, I'm going to come back and do the combing up and down the spine because I do that for really slow and for quite a long time. Let's stick with some of the dynamic moves and see what it's like to work underneath her like she was doing with me. So I'm going to push her legs up so I can get my feet underneath there a little bit more. Give her a lift. And I'm using the tops of my feet and I'm just kind of curling my toes. Some people, my feet like this. If your feet don't love it, don't do it. But especially around the glutes. How's that feel?
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's like something right around the sitting bones.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That just like my brain kind of switched.
You can put your toes in their sitting bones. We'll see if they come back.
You did, like actually on top of the sitting bones.
Okay, I was like, all right.
But
let's see if they come back.
It was just that same thing when you put the swing at the front of the hips and your whole spine, like, and your brain just like melt. If you've ever, I mean, that's how I feel every time I do a forward fold on the swings.
Yeah, my brain melts.
My brain.
So now I reached in and I put my hands on her quads and I'm pulling back. And I'm walking my feet up a little bit higher. So now I'm above her sacrum on the lumbar and giving a little bit of lift and pull. That feels like it feels good. How's that?
It's good. It's not as like phenomenal as some other things.
Okay, good. See, this is why we communicate.
Today, another day, it could be.
Yeah,
Nirvana.
that's good because I'm gonna make you do this on me too. So we're gonna have to, and you can push them away.
I can't wait.
Yeah, you can push them away with your toes and pull on the back of the legs too. And now I'm walking up the hamstring. So I'm holding on to her legs because otherwise it just pushes her away.
The hamstring stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, we were doing a little bit of that last time
Right, yeah,
too.
and I kind of forgot about that, but
Yeah.
now I remembered it.
Yeah, this is more, again, just repeating more of the dynamic, not just the sweet, yummy restorative that we...
Like, people are always assaulting their hamstrings when they want to get them to release.
Yeah,
And this is like so much better
yeah.
because it's really the nervous system that keeps your hamstrings contracted.
That's a good point. Yeah, and when we relax the nervous system, then the hamstrings can relax. Really good point. Why are you covering your face? Are you okay?
Just to relax my little furrowed brow.
Oh, okay. She's
Yes,
doing
no,
a
I'm
facial
fine.
for herself.
Thank you for asking.
There you go.
It's
There's-
actually something I love to do in when people are into Coccoon.
Uh-huh.
Have them just rest their fingertips around their eyebrows.
Yeah.
Then your thumb just sits in your cheek,
Oh, yeah.
and just relaxing the weight of your hands onto your face is just the right pressure.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying this walking up and down the hamstrings thing. That's why I stayed here. It's easy for me.
It feels amazing.
It feels amazing. I'm pulling on her feet, and it's so interesting because there's so many ways to get into the legs. But while somebody is completely relaxed, it works way better. That's why I'm enjoying this, and we're just experimenting. So toes, I'm using more toes, which will be stronger, right? Walking up and down.
I like that.
Okay, so that's good. So now I'm going to come back to the sides. And she's in a good position, but if I wanted to get her a little further down, I could do another shoulder press and get her flat. Right, so I could keep going. Yeah, nice.
Is there a way you can do that with your toes?
With what?
The press? Yeah.
On your shoulders?
Yeah.
If I had a chair, I've done that before with a chair. And so I have to sit up a little higher. I do that actually when somebody's on the table, is I actually sit in a chair and I work their shoulders with my feet.
Yeah.
And I'm just like sitting there. So anyhow,
Thank you.
so I'm going to do this move with my fingers spread out, just up and down the spine. And I usually like to work one side of the spine at a time. So my fingers are pretty much spread out the same width as the vertebrae. And I just love kind of digging in right between the spine and the paraspinal. And I just go up and down, and it just feels like it feels good. So I was like, do this so I could see what it feels like.
Oh, that's one of my favorite places to work.
Right? And then it's just using their own body weight. It's not too much on my fingers. It's a little bit stronger than just this one that we were doing. With the combing, it's a little bit more with the fingers bent and digging in. But because I'm using leverage with the table, I can actually push up pretty well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Hitting the U points. Yeah.
U points. What system is that?
Chinese medicine. The U points are the spaces.
No.
It is for the bladder, but they just call them U points. It's the space in between the vertebrae that actually help to boost the immune system. But it also goes in and works the organs because all the organs can be accessed through the nervous system. I'm like right by your feet, but that's okay. And even if I wanted to hit a couple of the glute points, I can do that too. So yeah, there's just so much access here for the hips and lower back. Just lifting and lowering. I like this one a lot.
And U points.
Mm-hmm. Get those U points. Yeah. just everything's so accessible because the spine's completely relaxed. Different than when we're face down in a face cradle.
Right. Oh, it's
Just
such a hard position sometimes.
yeah. When I feel a stuck point, that's when I'll do a little wiggle. So let's go back to the nice combing, just really soft. It's very nurturing. And then one hand under the sacrum. So imagine the center of your palm in the center of their sacrum. And then the other hand just wrapped around the occiput. And obviously there's more weight in your low back, but I'm just feeling here. And just this tiny little push up at the sacrum and push up at the occiput, and I can feel your body start to respond and heating up. It's based on the touch and the communication. And I can do one hand behind the heart and one hand behind, underneath the sacrum. That's what you were going for first, which is very nice. And just the same gentle pulsation. I'm gonna do that from the other side as well, so you can see me. So one hand, the center of my palm on the center of the sacrum, and then my center palm underneath the center of the heart, which is the sternum. And I'm just gently pushing into each palm. How does that feel?
You know, it because the heel of your hand has more pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and also on
Yeah.
both hands,
Yeah.
it feels a little lopsided.
Yeah, yeah. Because you can use the heel of the hand in the center, but I just don't think it feels nearly as good. What do you think?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome on the other side, even though it was the same asymmetry.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't, yeah, I mean, you're right, it doesn't have that same amazing something.
Well, what I want to do is activate the chakras with my palms. And so I'm really wanting to connect the center of the hand with the energy centers that are behind the sacrum and heart. So that's really what I'm going for here. And just tuning them with the energy field. Mm-hmm. This hand can come up here. Yeah, but it is something to note that you don't want to push too much into the palm because then that'll create an asymmetry. That's why I was saying wiggle your hand under a little bit more so that it felt more even. You can always just kind of engage the fingers to help balance it too, but I like soft palms if possible. Yeah. And then we're going to do a little body wash along the sides. Don't forget about the sides of the body. Working the hair, the skull. I'm going to do those sleepy moves on her because she's going to do some of the cocooning stuff with me again so we can practice some of those moves that I was showing her. So we're going to switch one more time. But why don't you try coming out through the bent knees and then arms overhead and then blossom, so let yourself, birth out the back here. And then I'll stretch your arms. Yeah. And then you can stretch your legs in the other direction. Just letting her come as far as it feels good. Okay, now she's suspended.
How does that feel?